The Epstein files have just been released by the Justice Department. We are sifting through them now, and we're going to bring you what we find as we and our teams find it throughout this hour. Let's get off the sidelines and head into the arena. My panel is here, and we're joined by CNN Crime and Justice correspondent Caitlin Polantz and CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Caitlin, first to you. I know that our teams are digging through these files. Is there anything you can tell us so far about what we've learned?
It's called the Epstein Library that's being released by the Justice Department. And Casey, it does include quite a lot of different types of materials about Jeffrey Epstein, some of which is already out there and some of which is very likely to have never seen the light of day before. The categories right now that the Justice Department is saying they're releasing the records on, and they have them all available for the public to view. That includes court records, Freedom of Information releases, some of the things that have already been out there, as well as documents that the House Oversight Committee has obtained and has been releasing, as well as the big part of this, the Justice Department's own disclosures. I'm looking at it now, and it's really extensive. There's multiple pages here. There's a lot of different lists of what's being put out in the public view. Some of that includes Epstein files that are being required by this law to be transparent by today. It looks to me like there are very large files here, data sets of information, and also some things we haven't seen before. Things we have seen before. Things like video from the Bureau of Prisons from when Jeffrey Epstein was in that facility, as well as audio of Ghislaine Maxwell speaking to the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche earlier this year in a taped interview. So all of that is collected. We are going to be looking through it to see what's new. But Casey, I was just reviewing what is already out there. There is a great deal already out there, but what is in this is also likely to be very sensitive. Even just in reading the end of the trial against co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, there is extensive discussion about the victims and how severe these crimes were. Girls as young as 14 being recruited from single-family homes largely to become people that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were both grooming.
All right, let me walk you through what just happened, because this is one of those moments in American politics where you can feel the ground shifting under your feet, even if the people in power are pretending nothing is happening. Tonight, the Justice Department has officially opened the vault. The Epstein files are out, or at least the first wave of them is. And before anyone rushes to conclusions or starts screaming, "Nothing burger," let me be very clear about what this moment actually represents. This is not just a document dump. This is not just paperwork. This is the federal government under enormous pressure, finally being forced to show its work after decades of silence, deflection, and selective accountability. I want to set the tone right away. I'm not here to hype conspiracies, but I'm also not here to sanitize reality. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a criminal. He was a system failure. And systems don't fail quietly. They fail because people make choices. That's what matters here. By the way, I am trying to do my best to gather all the information I can for you and share it with you. Please leave your likes and comments, and I would be grateful if you subscribed. Let's continue. So as these documents begin to surface, I want to take you inside what we actually know, what's being released, what's still missing, and why the White House, especially Donald Trump's White House, clearly wants no part of this conversation. Because make no mistake, this story is back, and it's not going away. The Justice Department is calling this release the Epstein Library, and that name alone tells you how massive this is. We're talking about an enormous collection of materials, court records, internal DOJ disclosures, Freedom of Information Act releases, documents gathered by the House Oversight Committee, and raw data that has either been buried for years or never seen by the public at all. Some of what's in this release overlaps with things we've already seen, but some of it doesn't, and that distinction matters. Right now, what's available is sprawling. Hundreds of pages, massive data sets, multimedia files, photos, videos, audio recordings. It's not curated in a neat narrative, and that's important. These materials are stripped of context. They're raw, they're uncomfortable, and they require serious analysis, not reactionary hot takes. One of the most disturbing aspects, something that immediately jumps out when you start reviewing these materials, is just how extensive the documentation is around Epstein's operations and his partnership with Ghislaine Maxwell. This wasn't a brief criminal episode. This was a long-running enterprise that spanned years, possibly decades, and preyed on vulnerable teenage girls, some as young as 14. Let that sink in for a moment. These weren't random encounters. The evidence already in the public record, and reinforced by what we're seeing again here, shows a deliberate pattern. Young girls, often from unstable or single-family households, were recruited under false pretenses. Promised money, promised opportunity, promised legitimacy. They were lured with talk of massage therapy, only to be groomed, exploited, and trafficked. And this didn't happen in the shadows. It happened in plain sight. What's especially chilling is how much of this the Justice Department knew, and how early they knew it. That's the part I'm watching most closely as these files roll out. Because the real question isn't whether Epstein and Maxwell were guilty. That's already been established. The real question is, why were they allowed to operate for so long? Why, in 2007 and 2008, did the Justice Department choose to go easy on Epstein? Why was a sweetheart deal allowed to happen? Why were federal charges deferred, minimized, or avoided altogether? And then, years later, why did the DOJ suddenly reverse course in 2019, indict Epstein again, and eventually convict Maxwell in 2021? Those decisions didn't happen in a vacuum. They involved prosecutors, supervisors, internal communications, political calculations. And that's what these files may finally help illuminate. This is the part of the story that has never been fully autopsied. We've seen fragments. We've seen investigative reporting. We've seen whistleblower accounts. But we've never seen the whole machine laid bare. If these documents do anything, they should force us to confront how justice was delayed and possibly denied at the highest levels. And that brings me to the White House. Because while the Justice Department is technically independent, the political fallout from this release lands squarely at the feet of Donald Trump. Let's be honest, the White House wants absolutely nothing to do with this story. They've spent months trying to distance themselves from Epstein, from Maxwell, from any association whatsoever. But this is the one scandal that refuses to stay buried. According to reporting from inside the administration, officials are bracing themselves, not because they believe there's a single document that proves Trump committed a crime, but because they know how this works. Optics matter, associations matter, history matters. They keep insisting over and over that if there were a clear smoking gun implicating Trump in criminal activity, it would have surfaced long ago, especially under a Democratic administration. That may be true, but that's not the standard the public is judging this by. What terrifies them isn't illegality, it's visibility. Anything that reinforces Trump's past relationship with Epstein, even socially, even tangentially, is enough to dominate headlines and drown out everything else the White House wants people to focus on. And they know it. You could see it in Trump's body language today. You could hear it in his voice. This is a president who normally thrives on questions, confrontation, and media chaos. And yet, when reporters were clearly preparing to ask about the Epstein files, he shut it down abruptly. He cut off questions. He ended the event early. He made it unmistakably clear this is not a topic he wants anywhere near him. That alone tells you how politically radioactive this moment is. And then there's Congress. This document release didn't happen because the Justice Department suddenly felt generous. It happened because Congress forced it to happen. Lawmakers passed legislation by an overwhelming margin that required the DOJ to turn over all documents related to the Epstein and Maxwell investigations. Let me repeat that. Overwhelming margin, nearly unanimous, signed into law. That law gave the Justice Department 30 days to comply. And technically, they haven't fully complied yet. What we're seeing now is only the first production. According to DOJ officials, there are potentially hundreds of thousands of pages still to come, weeks worth of releases, maybe longer. That's remarkable, because the law doesn't say most documents. It says all documents. Now, to be fair, there are exceptions built into the statute. Victim identities must be protected. Ongoing investigations can't be compromised. National security and foreign diplomacy concerns are valid reasons for withholding information. No reasonable person disputes that. But here's where it gets tense. Some lawmakers are already warning the Justice Department not to overdo it. Excessive redactions, delays, missing materials, any of that could trigger serious legal consequences. Tampering with evidence or intentionally concealing records would cross into obstruction of justice territory. There's no proof that's happening yet, but the warning shots have been fired. And then there are the images. This is one of the most unsettling parts of the release so far. Buried within the data sets are hundreds of photographs. No captions, no explanations, no locations, no dates, just images. Many of them show Epstein. Many include Maxwell. And that's it. No context. That's incredibly dangerous and incredibly important at the same time. Dangerous because images without context invite speculation. Important because they may become pieces of a much larger puzzle once reporting fills in the gaps. This is not content meant for casual consumption. This is material that requires restraint, verification, and serious investigative work. And to their credit, journalists are being careful about how they handle it. But the sheer volume of what's now public is staggering. Audio recordings of Maxwell speaking with federal officials, internal DOJ communications about releasing documents, Bureau of Prisons footage from Epstein's incarceration. This isn't just historical, it's procedural. It's about how power operates when no one thinks they'll be held accountable. And here's the thing I keep coming back to. This isn't about relitigating Epstein's crimes. That part is settled. This is about confronting the culture of protection that allowed those crimes to continue for so long. It's about asking why powerful people always seem to get time, leniency, second chances, while victims are asked to wait, to stay quiet, to move on. As these files continue to roll out over the coming weeks, the pressure is only going to intensify. Media coverage will spike, political defenses will harden, and there will be a lot of noise designed to exhaust you into disengagement. That's the strategy. But this moment matters because transparency delayed is accountability denied. And for the first time in a long time, the system is being forced, reluctantly, painfully, to open its doors. I'll be following every release, every update, every contradiction, and I'll keep breaking it down here, not with hysteria, not with blind loyalty, but with clarity and memory. Because the Epstein story isn't just about one man. It's about who was protected, who wasn't, and why it took this long for the truth to even begin coming out.